Transfer complete.
Greetings and salutations from StarBase 118. My name is Lieutenant Commander German Galven, and before we get started with this month's podcast, I'd like to present a couple of awards to some people that have shown exemplary performances in creating and submitting segments for past and even this current podcast. For the host with the most badge, that's awarded to those who have conducted and contributed to an interview to a full podcast. I hereby present the award to Lieutenant Commander Toryn Raga, Lieutenant Geoffrey Delar, and Lieutenant Junior Grade Chloe Waters. And finally, there's a badge called Put Your Ears On, which is awarded to a player who edits and one full podcast in a given year. I hereby present this person's exemplary performance who would love to give it to someone else, Lieutenant Commander German Galven. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the good folk of the StarBase 118 fleet. This is Geoffrey Delar, and I am bringing you your July 2019 podcast. Boy, is it a good one. It is as hot as the weather is outside. We have a bunch of great segments for you. We've got reactions from the recent fleet award ceremonies from a number of our award recipients. We've got a fantastic dramatic reading of a sim by Kayla, Drex, and Maddi, Hyden, and Toryn Raga steps in to bring us some updates from the Federation News Service on missions around the fleet that you may not have heard of. So, without any ado, we're going to launch right into that dramatic reading. We bring you shock and awe.
Maddi and Issa's quarters, Deck 3, USS Atlantis. Maddi had been getting ready for a shift, but she had realized she was way too early. She smiled as a thought crossed her mind. She replicated a glass of chocolate milk and activated a subspace communication, waiting to see if there was a reply.
USS Eagle, Kayla's quarters. Kayla had been painting again. This new piece was so far without form or intention. The dark swirl of deep blues, black, and greens had only recently been interrupted by a shock of a splatter of metallic gold paint she'd been wanting to experiment with. The tiny metallic flecks in the paint swirled in the solvent in the brush cup now. Kayla smiled as she watched the tiny whirlpool. Looking at her canvas, she smiled still wider. Some shining spots and a wash of bleak darkness. The painting was done. It didn't need anything else in her mind, so she rinsed her brushes again and hung them carefully to dry. No sooner had she washed her hands than she heard the terminal on her desk chirp, indicating an incoming subspace message. Curious, she plopped down into her chair and tapped to complete the connection. The smiling face that greeted her was one she'd seen so many times while at the academy, but hadn't seen in over 6 months. Maddi! Hi, how in the galaxy are you?
Maddi hadn't seen the face in a very long time, but it made her so happy to see such an old friend. Kayla had been there for her when Issa couldn't, and she had become rather fond of the conversations. Kayla, my old friend, I'm doing rather well. I have some big news to tell you, but first I have to ask you, how have you been?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I haven't been great. Kayla then explained how her mama had passed, the doubts she'd been feeling in the sudden absence, and the new resolve she had started to feel settling in her heart and mind. Realizing that she'd been talking uninterrupted for the last 10 minutes, but that's about it. What's this news? You getting another promotion or something?
Wait a minute. I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your mother. For one, she raised a strong young woman who made my time at the academy that much easier. Don't ever doubt yourself, Kayla. You're worth more than you'll ever know to me and so many others. They say your resolve makes you stronger, and in your case, I think you could be so much stronger out of all of this. Maddi stopped for a minute, looking at Kayla, who looked like she was going to cry. Look, Kay, I've always been here for you. Though it's been so long, keep your head up. If anyone can get through this, it's you. She paused again and decided it was time. However, to answer your question, I proposed to Issa and she said yes, and well, I want you to be in the wedding if that's something you'd want.
Wait, you what? The sound that Kayla then made might have been only audible to Mandy, Chloe's dog, probably sleeping until that moment in the quarters across the hall. She alternated between clapping her hands, flailing in excitement, and covering her face to wipe away the happy tears that now streamed from her eyes. Maddi, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you both. Congratulations. And yes, of course, I'd love to be in your wedding. Have you two set a date? Can I help with anything? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Kayla beamed at the small screen. Maddie's face beamed back at her. As excited as Kayla was, it was obvious and fitting that Maddie was even more excited. Kayla had met Issa back at the academy. She'd helped Issa bring a pretty dismal grade in temporal mechanics up to a respectable B-. There was one thing Kayla was certain of. Issa and Maddie were a perfect match.
Not exactly. Our plans are for our next shore leave, but we aren't sure yet. Well, I know one thing you could do. Get your maid of honor speech ready. She paused for effect. I think you know what that means. Maddie looked at Kayla and could tell she was beyond excited. She smiled. It was a decision that she had not made lightly. Joe and Kayla were the only two she had even thought about for the honor, but Kayla had done so much for her, and she knew what Maddie had been through. Maddie felt as though Kayla deserved the honor.
Kayla stared at the screen, mouth agape, and blinked a couple times while this latest request set in. Maddie. Then the penny dropped. She would have to remember to apologize to Chloe later for torturing her poor dog. The squeals coming from Kayla's quarters caught a passing crewman off guard. He stopped in his tracks and stared at the closed door, wondering if he should call security. Kayla's squeals turned into fits of delighted laughter, though, so he shrugged and continued on his way. Maddie, I would absolutely love to be your maid of honor. Thank you so much for asking me. I'm really honored and touched. Kayla took a breath, thinking immediately about how many ways she could make this special day even more celebratory. Bachelorette party. I've got some ideas for how to make that work. Don't worry, it's not going to be anything crazy or risque. I know it's not really your scene. I want to help you with anything and everything you need. You just let me know, okay? I'm your girl. I got you. Need me to mess up a baker trying to overcharge you for the cake? Just point me in the punk's direction. Another small scream of glee. Ah! Maddie, this is going to be so fun.
You better not go crazy. You know I don't like crazy things in parties. You learned that at the academy. Well, I'm sure Issa and I will keep you in the loop, she smiled.
Kayla blushed. It had been the only time she tried going to a wild academy party. She dragged Maddie along. It hadn't gone well, and Kayla didn't try another party after that. No worries. It'll be totally you. The girls talked a bit longer, Maddie telling Kayla about the proposal, Kayla gasping at all the right parts of the story. This was going to be a lot of fun. End. Writing as Kayla Drex, I am Chris.
Writing as Maddi Hyden, I'm Stefan.
Wasn't that great, folks? Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Kayla. That was a touching little scene, and I can see why it ended up in our Appreciations Forum. Remember to check out that Appreciations Forum. It's a under-visited spot on the official StarBase 118 forums. You can see a lot of great sims from writers all over the fleet, and it can give you an idea of what some of the different mission posts look like and what the crew and personality of some of the other ships and postings might be. You might just find something interesting out there. You might find something that you never expected. Now, we are going to launch into some of the reactions that have been voiced by our fleet members since our recent award ceremonies. The award ceremonies, of course, huge deal. We had a lot handed out this year. It was a good time had by all of our award recipients, and for those folks just joining the fleet, something to look forward to next year. It's a great way to challenge yourself if there's an award that you're specifically going for, and if not, if this is just an honor that you received because of your positive contribution to the fleet, well then congratulations to you, crew member. That's fantastic. You are why our community is great, and you are being recognized for that. So we go to Toryn Raga now, who's got award reactions. Toryn.
Fresh on the heels of this year's awards ceremony, we asked a couple of the recipients of some recognitions to give us a little feedback, and here's just a few of their humble answers. First is Fleet Captain Jelana Rogel of the USS Constitution B. Asked her when she won the Tasma and Christopher pike pendant during this year's ceremony. How did she feel when she won? Her response, as a CO, you don't really expect to be nominated for awards because you are so focused on nominating your crew members and colleagues. So I really felt humbled and surprised, and of course, happy as well. Who doesn't like their work being acknowledged in that way? Do you have any idea you'd been nominated? No, I didn't. Is there anyone you'd like to thank? She said, I'd like to thank my crew for being the awesome bunch of people they are. Without them, the Connie wouldn't be what she is. Thank you, everyone. Aw. So do you have any plans for next year's award ceremony? To which she replied she wants to nominate a lot of people and enjoy the shinies brightening people's days. That's definitely Jelana. I also got a chance to ask Lieutenant Geoffrey Teller of the USS Veritas how he felt. He, of course, won the Rust Bar and the Luminary Award during this year's ceremony, and I asked him how he felt when he won. He says, I was and continue to be stunned and humbled by the recognition. I feel like I already get so much positivity from StarBase 118 that the idea of getting awarded for something I enjoy so much is still a little surprising, but I'm very proud. I asked if he knew he'd been nominated. He said, I had no idea I'd been nominated, especially for an award like the Luminary. There are so many great writers and great people in the fleet. The idea of being recognized from such a diverse and talented group was shocking. When asked if there was anyone he'd like to thank, he said, very much so. I'd like to start at the top by thanking my captain, Roshanara Rahman, and the entirety of the ship's staff aboard the USS Veritas, who have been amazing in stewarding me into the SB-118 community. Additionally, I'd like to thank my colleagues and close friends, Will Eukenix and Javar, with whom I had some of the best writing experiences of my life. It's truly a pleasure to be a part of this team. I asked if he had any plans for next year's award ceremony. To wit, as I wasn't a part of the fleet during last year's ceremony, I didn't really know what to expect. Regarding next year's award ceremony, my one goal is to do a better job of tracking individual sims over the course of the year, so I'll have an easier time getting nominations together for all the people who deserve them. Good idea. And lastly, I asked if he had any ideas on an award we don't have that might be good to add. He said, no ideas for new awards at this point, but I certainly think it bears some thought. Our crew had a challenge recognizing our captain because they'd previously won nearly every available award, so some additional high-level awards that a crew can offer senior officer would be nice. Lieutenant Genko Sadia, USS Gorkon. He was awarded the Prantaris Ribbon and the Pathfinder Award at this year's ceremony. When asked, how did you feel when you won? He answered, I felt elated and incredibly surprised. I was incredibly grateful to receive the Pathfinder Award so early into my career at SB-118. Galven pointed out that he and I are the only two people of a rank lower than Lieutenant Commander to receive the award. Did you have any idea you'd been nominated? His reply, I had no idea that I had been nominated. It was a surprise, to be sure, and a welcome one. Is there anyone you'd like to thank? He answered, I'd like to thank you, Groznin Smith, and Sammy, Samir Niffler. I'm sure I butchered that. My mentees for presumably nominating me, and a massive thank you to Jo for all her help. She's been a fantastic help, always willing and eager to offer feedback on all my mentoring emails. He also added Quinn Reynolds for being a kick-ass captain. Do you have any plans for next year's ceremony? His answer, my plans for next year's ceremony? A difficult one. I was shooting for the Prantaris Award, but, shrugged bashfully, I got it. But I do plan to nominate even more people. I want the Gorkon's crew to be the awards they fully deserve. I also spoke with Lieutenant Commander Rune Delar of the USS Columbia. She won the Neelix Award and the Black Cross during this year's ceremony, so I asked her how she felt when she won. She says, I felt I hadn't been doing all that well over the last year, so when I saw my name I was absolutely surprised and extremely happy. It's truly an honor to have received them. Did you have any idea you'd been nominated? She says, no, not at all. It was a total surprise. Is there anyone you'd like to thank? Absolutely. The entire crew of Columbia, for starters. Without them, none of this would be possible. It really helps to be surrounded by such wonderful writers and so much creativity. I also want to send a special thank you to Captain Theo Whitaker and Commander Jared Thoran. They are absolutely amazing leaders who have been very patient working with me and helping me through one of my rougher patches. So have any plans for next year's award ceremony? She says, I'm planning on being more prepared to make some nominations myself. And lastly, any ideas on an award we don't have that might be good to add? She says, unfortunately, I don't have any ideas at the moment, but it is certainly something I will be thinking more about. And there you have it.
Thank you very much, Toryn, and we'll be hearing from Toryn again a little bit later as he updates us on the Federation News Service's most recent breaking headlines. But we have to take a quick break for this word from our sponsors. Working the night shift? Are crew evaluations due again? Can't quite get your shields up? Well, drop by the Brew Continuum for a hearty hello, a cup of joe, or maybe even a rectigino. Coffee of all varieties are freshly grown in our hydroponics bay. Every cup is handcrafted by a coffee professional, and we bring you a stellar view of the stars as you enjoy your rise to wakefulness. Now with 2 locations of both Veritas and the Astraeus. Contact Lieutenant Geoffrey Teller via Subspace about franchise opportunities for your ship or StarBase today. That coffee sounds absolutely delicious, but maybe I'm a little biased. We now rejoin Toryn Raga for mission reports from the Federation News Service. And remember, if you haven't checked out the Federation News Service, go to federationnewsservice.com or check them out on Discord and find out what's been going on around the fleet.
FNS News Stardate 239605.27. Mission Report Stardate 239601.14. An unexpected discovery brings back a Starfleet crew from the 22nd century. The USS Blackwell was on the Partha Expanse when anomalous readings appeared and they moved to investigate. While doing so, they discovered an NX-class starship, the Forthwith, that was considered lost with all hands in 2153. They're discovered by the Blackwell on the planetoid P409 Sigma in the Rattan province of the Partha Expanse. The Forthwith crew were apparently trapped inside an anomaly and were rescued by the Blackwell with help from the Klingon vessel Giktal, what marks another example of collaboration between Starfleet and the Klingon Defense Force. Many seek to know more of the 22nd century by first-hand information. In words of one of the rescued officers, I don't know what I can tell them, said Lieutenant Parker the Forthwith. I'm just glad to be back, even though it's a bit late. From all of us at the FNS, welcome home.
And thank you very much, Toryn, for those headlines from around the fleet. Federation News Service, of course, an invaluable resource, builds our community, makes everything feel a little more connected. Make sure to check them out if you haven't. That brings us to the end of this month's StarBase 118 podcast. I appreciate you listening in. Look forward to our next episode, which will be coming out bottom end of August. And until then, this has been Geoffrey Teller. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, fleet. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you for sticking around, dedicated listener. You have found our little Easter egg for the month of July, and that is a poem submitted by our very own Kayla Drex on her love for air conditioning. Consider this your after credits scene for this, your Starbase 118 podcast. Here's Kayla Drex's For the Love of Air Conditioning. For the Love of Air Conditioning, a poem by Kayla Drex. A cool breeze blows across my sweating face, refreshment of body and soul on a blazing day. You bring hope with your cooling grace. My fears of death by melting are now allayed. They call you conditioning, but you're so much more. You are vitalizing, rejuvenating, bringing sanctuary from the outdoors. Never leave me, never run hot. Please stay frosty on the warmest day. I will keep you charged with the can I bought. I'll help you help me in your special way. This has been For the Love of Air Conditioning by Kayla Drex.
Absolutely beautiful.